Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who chose virtue over indulgence. The philosophy of Stoicism is built upon the idea that the wise man, the good man, the philosopher, lives in accordance with nature. He fears nothing except abdicating his moral responsibility. He does not dread pain, death, poverty, or the vicissitudes of the human condition. The only thing he truly fears is failing himself, falling short of his duty as a human being. Among the most remarkable practitioners of this philosophy was a man who stood at the apex of power yet remained steadfastly committed to virtue. This man was Marcus Aurelius. He was a Roman emperor, the most powerful man in the world during his reign from 161 AD to 180 AD. Yet, despite the limitless pleasures at his fingertips, despite the unchecked authority to bend reality to his will, he chose the path of restraint, wisdom, and integrity. This is not a self-help article. It is not about finding quick fixes for modern-day anxieties, but it is about something more profound, the timeless power of Stoic philosophy, a philosophy that Marcus Aurelius embodied to an extent that few, if any, ever have. This philosophy is not a relic of the past. It is an antidote to the very struggles we face in the modern world. A man of power who rejected excess. To understand the true weight of Marcus Aurelius's greatness, we must first recognize what it meant to be a Roman emperor. The position was synonymous with decadence. It was almost expected that emperors would indulge in unrestrained luxury, money, sex, wine, and every pleasure known to man. Power in Rome came with no moral constraints. Emperors were gods in all but name. But Marcus Aurelius was different. He did not succumb to these temptations. He could have had anything, and yet he chose virtue. And not just for a fleeting moment, not just once to prove a point. He chose it every day for 19 years, for the entirety of his reign. Being good does not necessarily make one great. But imagine being given unlimited power, infinite resources, and every conceivable vice within reach. Imagine resisting it all, not because you must, but because you believe in something greater. Imagine choosing virtue not for praise, not for admiration, but simply because it is the right thing to do. That is what Marcus Aurelius did, and that is why he remains a paragon of wisdom and strength centuries after his death. The book never meant to be read. Marcus Aurelius left behind something extraordinary: meditations. But calling it a book is misleading. It was never meant for public consumption. It was his personal journal, a collection of private thoughts and reflections written solely for himself. These were not philosophical treatises intended to impress others. They were reminders, confessions, and affirmations, a dialogue between Marcus and his own soul. And yet, these writings have endured as one of the most powerful works of philosophy in history. Meditations has guided countless individuals through the trials of life, not because it was meant to be read, but precisely because it was never meant to be. It is raw, honest, and deeply human, living in accordance with nature. For Marcus Aurelius, the key to life was living in accordance with nature. But nature, in his view, was not just the trees and rivers. It was the entire natural order of the universe. Trees grow not for praise, but because it is their nature to grow. Eagles soar not for accolades, but because they were made to fly. Likewise, humans have a purpose. And according to Marcus, that purpose is to be virtuous, to be kind, just, disciplined, and wise. It is not to accumulate wealth, not to seek fame, not to chase ephemeral pleasures. Nature has assigned us the task of fulfilling our highest potential. Anything less is failure. We cannot control what happens to us. We cannot prevent adversity. We cannot stop the world from being chaotic. But we can control ourselves. And if we do, if we remain steadfast in our duty, we have succeeded in the only way that matters: dealing with wickedness. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor, meaning he dealt with people, many of them wicked, selfish, and immoral. It would have been easy for him to despise such people, to grow bitter, to seek vengeance. But he did not. Instead, he accepted that evil people existed, just as thorns exist on vines. To expect otherwise would be foolish. He reminded himself that people do not act wrongly out of malice, but out of ignorance. And if he could not help them, he would endure them with patience. He reminded himself again and again that he too had faults, that he too was not beyond ignorance, that in another circumstance, on another day, he could be the one in the wrong. facing adversity with courage. Marcus did not believe in praying for an easy life. He did not beg the universe for misfortunes to pass him by. He knew they would come, and when they did, he did not despair. He did not complain. He faced them head on. He reminded himself that hardships were simply part of the human condition. The only question was whether he would meet them with bravery or with weakness. And so, when adversity came, he endured it, not with sorrow, but with resolve. "Bear it as a brave man," he wrote to himself. "Act, endure, move forward." Wealth and detachment. Despite his unimaginable wealth, Marcus Aurelius did not believe in the pursuit of material things. He did not condemn wealth, nor did he see it as inherently evil. But he warned himself not to be seduced by it. He reminded himself to value what he had, but never to become attached. He told himself to reflect on his possessions as if he did not own them, because, in truth, they could vanish at any moment. His potential, his virtue, those were the only things of true worth. Death. The final duty. Marcus Aurelius thought about death often, not with dread, but with acceptance. Death was inevitable. To fear it was to waste time. Just as nature has assigned us to live virtuously, it has also assigned us to die. And when that time comes, it is not something to be resisted. It is simply the next step. While you are here, he told himself, live, be kind, be just. And when the time comes, die as you have lived, with dignity. The legacy of a Stoic emperor. The Stoics distinguished between fleeting pleasure and true happiness. Wealth, fame, and power were mere distractions. They provided momentary satisfaction, but they were not the source of lasting fulfillment. True happiness, the Stoics said, comes from within. It comes from virtue, from discipline, from fulfilling one's duty. And nothing, no loss, no hardship, no external force can take that happiness away. Marcus Aurelius believed that being great was not about status, but about duty. And duty is not something we do for recognition. It is something we do because it is in our very nature. He was the most powerful man in the world, yet he remained its most humble servant. He could have been anything, yet he chose to be good. And that, more than his titles or his empire, is why he is remembered. That is what makes him great.